Under the sharp blaze of the California sun, the small roadside garage shimmered with heat and dust. The rhythmic clang of metal against metal echoed like a song only one man understood. Raymond Carter, gray at the temples, grease on his hands, moved between cars with the steady patience of someone who'd made peace with hard work. Sweat rolled down his brow as he leaned over an open hood, the smell of oil thick in the air, the sound of humming engines blending with passing traffic. This was his world, simple, honest, sunlit, but that calm was about to be broken. A red streak tore across the road like a flash of arrogance. A bright cherry-red sports car, sleek and loud, roared into the lot, its tires spitting up gravel and dust that coated the windows and the cars waiting for repair. The engine cut off with a proud purr, and for a heartbeat, the whole garage fell. Silent. Mechanics froze, tools midair, all eyes on the car that clearly didn't belong here. Then the door swung open, and out stepped Ethan Blake. He was the kind of man the city loved to photograph. Expensive shoes, watch glinting like it had its own spotlight, sunglasses that mirrored nothing but his own reflection. His hair was perfect, his expression smug, his confidence inflated by wealth that hadn't seen a hard day's work in its life. He took one look at Raymond, at the sweat, the grime, the oil stains on his shirt, and smirked. "Don't touch the paint with those dirty hands," Ethan said, loud enough for everyone to hear. A few people at the gas pumps nearby chuckled awkwardly. Raymond didn't respond. He simply nodded and stepped closer to the car, calm as ever. "You mentioned a knocking sound coming from the engine?" he asked, his voice patient, measured. Ethan laughed. "I didn't mention anything. I just said fix it, old man. If you even know how?" He glanced around, waving his phone like a trophy. "You'd think a guy like me could find a real shop, not this dump for broken dreams." The words hung in the air, sharp and cruel. Raymond's younger assistant, Tyler, shifted uncomfortably, ready to defend his boss. But Raymond stopped him with a small motion of his hand. Years of dealing with pride, his own and others, had taught him the power of silence. He simply reached for his rag, wiped his palms, and said, "Pop the hood and let's take a look." But Ethan didn't move. Instead, he snapped a quick photo of Raymond's stained overalls and smirked at his screen. "You know, this'll look great on my feed." Caption: "When peasants try to fix perfection." The people nearby looked away. The tension was thick now, hotter than the sun overhead. And then Ethan got back in the driver's seat, started the engine, and revved it loudly. "Hear that? That's the sound of power," he bragged. But power, it seemed, had a strange sense of humor. A loud clank broke the air, followed by a sickening hiss. The car sputtered. Smoke began to curl out from under the hood. Thin at first, then pouring out in gray streams that caught the sunlight. Ethan's laughter died instantly. The crowd gasped. Tyler took a step back. Even the air felt heavier. Raymond walked forward slowly, his boots crunching over the gravel. He didn't rush, didn't gloat. He simply looked at the trembling red car, then at its owner, whose once perfect confidence was melting faster than the asphalt beneath their feet. Raymond's expression stayed calm, almost kind. He wiped his hands again and said quietly, "You might want to take a look at that now." Ethan stumbled out of the car, waving his hands to clear the smoke. "What did you do to it?" he shouted, his voice cracking. "I haven't even touched it yet," Raymond replied. His tone was steady, the kind of tone that didn't need to prove anything. The rich man's face flushed with panic and anger, but underneath it, something else flickered. Fear. He looked around as if searching for someone to blame, but all he found were eyes watching him. Curious eyes, judging eyes. "Move aside," Raymond said softly. He reached for the hood latch. The metal was hot under his hands, the sunlight gleaming off it like polished glass. With a smooth motion, he lifted it open. The smoke rose and then cleared just enough for the truth to show itself. And when it did, every single person nearby went silent. Inside the pristine red machine was chaos, twisted cables, leaking valves, parts jammed where they shouldn't be. The shine of luxury had hidden a mechanical mess, a danger waiting to happen. Raymond's trained eyes scanned it once, and in that moment his entire demeanor changed. He wasn't just a mechanic anymore. He was a surgeon seeing a failed operation, a craftsman recognizing his own kind of art, ruined by careless hands. Ethan leaned closer, his arrogance slipping into disbelief. That's not possible," he muttered. But Raymond didn't answer. He only stared deeper into the engine, his expression unreadable. Something about what he saw made his jaw tighten, his eyes darken, not with anger, but with something else. Recognition. He took a slow breath and stepped back. Around them, the crowd murmured, whispering to each other, wondering what had gone so terribly wrong with the perfect car. And then Raymond looked at Ethan, his voice steady but heavy with meaning. "This isn't just a knock in the engine," he said. "You might want to sit down before you hear what's really going on." The bystanders leaned in. The hum of the highway seemed to fade, replaced by the soft ticking of the car's failing engine. Even Ethan, who moments ago had been laughing, now looked pale and uneasy. Raymond's gaze lingered under the hood, on something small and metallic buried beneath the pipes, something the others hadn't noticed yet. His thumb brushed over the surface of it, clearing away the soot. For the briefest second, a faint emblem shimmered in the sunlight. And just like that, Raymond froze. The mark was familiar. Too familiar. He lowered the hood halfway, his hand trembling slightly, not from fear, but from a memory he thought he'd buried years ago. He looked back at Ethan, who was still fuming, unaware of the storm about to break. Raymond's eyes narrowed. "Where did you get this car?" he asked quietly. Ethan straightened his jacket. "Why do you care?" But Raymond didn't answer. The sun glinted off the hood, the crowd waited breathlessly, and in that burning silence between them, something shifted. Because whatever Raymond had just seen beneath that hood wasn't just broken metal. It was a secret, one that was about to change everything. Under the blinding California sun, the hood of the crimson sports car lifted with a sharp metallic click, and the crowd leaned in, holding their breath. For a long, tense second, nothing moved except the shimmer of heat rising from the asphalt. Then Raymond's rough, grease-stained hands reached forward, steady and deliberate, parting the veil of polished perfection that had just exploded into smoke minutes earlier. What he found beneath the gleaming hood silenced even the wind. The truth was right there, raw, ugly, and impossible to deny. The engine bay, once a symbol of speed and status, looked like a battlefield of mismatched and cheap components. Bolts that didn't belong, tubes that didn't connect. A fuel line held together with tape, its edges already darkened with heat. Raymond's thumb brushed over a cracked gasket as he exhaled through his nose, the sound low and heavy. He didn't need to say a word, but when he finally did, his voice was quiet, almost too calm for what he'd just uncovered. "Whoever sold you this car," he murmured, eyes fixed on the corroded engine. "Sold you a dream with a rotten heart." The words landed like a hammer. Ethan Blake's confident smirk faltered. The sun caught the sheen of sweat forming along his temple, and for the first time that day, his designer sunglasses couldn't hide the flicker of doubt in his eyes. Around them, customers, drivers, and curious onlookers exchanged murmurs. One whispered to another, "That thing's a death trap." And then, a voice from the back. A man in a baseball cap stepped forward. "Wait a second," he said slowly. "I saw this same model on an auction site last year. It looked identical, but it was listed as a prototype rebuild." The air changed. Ethan's face went pale, his jaw tightening as realization struck like lightning. Raymond, still calm, walked to the side of the car and crouched down. His movements carried the weight of memory, the kind that never truly fades. With the edge of a rag, he began wiping at the car's side panel. Layers of bright red paint came away like the peeling of lies. Slowly, a faint emblem emerged beneath the polish. Worn, but unmistakable. Carter Performance Motors. The crowd gasped. Ethan blinked hard, trying to process it, but the letters stared back at him like a signature carved in truth. Raymond Carter, the quiet mechanic he had mocked, was the very man who'd once built this masterpiece of engineering. The man whose designs had been copied, resold, and stripped of credit long ago. "But this can't be," Ethan stammered. You built this?" Raymond didn't look up. He simply kept cleaning the emblem until it gleamed under the sunlight. 15 years ago, he said softly, "before I had to sell everything to pay for my wife's hospital bills, before people stopped seeing the man behind the work." There was no anger in his voice, just truth, quiet, unshakable truth. And that, somehow, cut deeper than rage ever could. Ethan stepped back, his once proud posture crumbling. The arrogance that had filled his voice earlier, gone. In its place, something fragile. Guilt, humility, maybe even shame. He watched. As Raymond tightened a few bolts, fixed the loose valve, and adjusted the wiring, each movement steady, graceful, practiced, the work of a craftsman who never stopped caring, no matter who was watching. The crowd said nothing now. Even the sounds of the highway nearby seemed to fade, as though the world had paused to witness the quiet redemption unfolding in front of them. Finally, Raymond lowered the hood, his hands smudged with oil and sunlight. He turned to Ethan, who stood there, a man stripped of ego, unsure what to say. I'm sorry," Ethan whispered. "I didn't know." Raymond studied him for a moment. The lines on his face, carved by years of hard work and loss, softened. He nodded once, the faintest smile tugging at the corner of his lips. "It's never too late to learn respect," he said. Those words hung in the air, heavy and pure. Ethan reached into his pocket as if to offer money, but Raymond raised a hand. "Keep it," he said. "Just take care of her. She's built to last, if treated right." The crowd, still watching, began to clap. Not loud, not for show, but a slow, sincere rhythm that filled the garage like sunlight pouring through open windows. Ethan's eyes lowered as he accepted the keys from Raymond's hand. The same hands he had mocked hours ago, now trembling slightly from exhaustion, yet carrying a quiet strength that money could never buy. As Ethan climbed back into the car, his reflection caught in the rearview mirror, but it wasn't the same man who had arrived. His pride had melted into something more human, more real. He drove away slowly this time, the engine purring with the kind of smoothness only respect can restore. Raymond watched him go, the sound of the motor fading into the warmth of the afternoon. Around him, the garage came alive again, the rhythm of tools, laughter, conversation. But something had changed. For the first time in years, people didn't just see a mechanic. They saw the man behind the name, the quiet builder who once turned metal into dreams. He wiped his hands on a rag, the grease glinting gold in the late sunlight. The same hands that had built engines and repaired hearts. To most, it was just oil and labor. But to Raymond Carter, it was legacy. Proof that even when the world forgets your name, your work still speaks. And as the crowd slowly dispersed, one by one, a familiar car stopped at the far end of the road. The same red sports car, but this time it didn't roar. It idled softly, humbly. Ethan stepped out, carrying something in his hand. The old Carter Performance badge, newly polished, gleaming like it had never aged. He walked toward Raymond, silent, uncertain, and what happened next would leave everyone watching speechless.